waiting for a good place to wrap that up, and that seemed like a good place to do it. Hi folks, how you doing? Nick Jennison. It is the Monday Guitar Show. We're doing the thing that we do on Mondays, which is hang out and chat about the guitar. Specifically, in this stream, we are hanging out and chatting about playing lots of notes on the guitar. Lots and lots and lots of notes. I think I got through them all in that intro jam, or if not all of them, then most of them, and at least a few of them were good. Anyway, hey, listen, if you're new, thanks for coming. It is great to have you on board. We are doing the thing that we do on Mondays, which is go live on the YouTubes and on the Facebooks and all of the other social media platforms that you happen to be watching us on, whichever platform you do happen to be watching us on, by the way. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up on said platform. And we talk about the guitar. We try and give you guys some advice on how you can improve your guitar playing, ways that you can become a marginally better guitar player than you were when we started, if that makes sense. So when we started this stream at the very least. And today we are discussing our continuing theme for this month, which is playing faster. It's one of those things guitar players ask about all of the time. Last week we did a bunch of stuff on left-hand speed. Left-hand speed. Today we are discussing the right hand, or your picking hand if you're a left-handed guitar player, how you can get it faster, and because this is intimately tied to right hand speed or picking hand speed, how we can improve our hand synchronization. That is, our ability to play synchronized groupings of notes between this hand and have it make sense. Now, I am dealing with a very, very serious case of the old sore fingers today, because I've been in rehearsal all day and it's been brilliant, but man, my hands are toast. But that's okay, because we're gonna have a lot of fun playing lots and lots of fast notes, which is exactly what you want when your hands are toast. But that's fine. I'm here for you, right? I'm here for you. We're going to have a lot of fun together. But before we do that, a couple of quick little bits of housekeeping. If you haven't done so already, give this video a thumbs up. It helps us out immeasurably, helps us get it out, the message out to as many guitar players as we can, so we can reach as many guitar players and give them all the great free information that we are giving out every week. Because of course these streams are free. They will continue to be free for as long as I continue to do them, which is going to be the foreseeable future, because I love hanging out with you guys and talking about the guitars. No intentions of stopping, but you really do help us if you give us a thumbs up. Share this with your guitar playing friends, and also don't forget, hit the subscribe icon on whatever platform you happen to be watching on, whether you happen to be watching on Lick Library, whether you're watching on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel, or whether you're watching on Facebook. Wherever you are, you know where the buttons are, you know where to hit them. Also, if you want more lessons, you can go to licklibrary.com. If you want news, reviews, interviews, and all of that other gear and guitar lifestyle related stuff, go to guitarinteractivemagazine.com, where you'll get all of that good stuff. Anyway, so we'll get on to the meat of today's session in just a moment. Before we do a little bit more housekeeping, I want to show you this. This is a new course that has dropped on licklibrary.com. We have a few folks in the chat who are already using this course. This is a course that is going to go along with the stuff that we're doing here. This is the Ultimate Guitar Speed Builder by yours truly. Look at that. That's my face right there. And that's my guitar. That guitar, in fact, is right here. Yeah. So what this essentially is a course that is designed to give you quick results when it comes to improving your ability to play quickly on the guitar. It's not a series of licks. It's not a vocabulary-based course where you learn a bunch of things to play fast. It is specifically designed not just on the mechanics of playing fast, but on the actual act of practicing and improving your speed. The way we do this is by using principles from sports science. You guys know that I'm a bit of a strength and conditioning nerd. So we use some principles derived from sports science, specifically the way that speed and power athletes train, including it's kind of based loosely on periodized training, which is Joel Friel's. Joel Friel wrote the text on this, but it's basically how speed sprinters, velodrome cyclists, etc. It's how these guys train to become very, very fast. I have seen great improvements in my own guitar playing when I've been applying this stuff, and to be honest, it kind of jives with the way a lot of great guitar players will practice anyway. Go check it out. It's now available on licklibrary.com. The links are down below in the description if you would like to know some more about this. I'll tell you more about we go on. If you've got questions, don't forget to drop them down in the comments. If you've got questions about literally anything today, anything guitar related at least, drop them down in the comments. We'll be answering them as you go. So if you got questions, comment below. We would love to hear from you. We'll do a full Q&A at the end of today's session. But we'll also try and address as many questions as we possibly can over the course of the stream. So let's say some hellos, see how everybody's getting on, see who's in the house. Marcin is the first one through the door. Lovely to see you. PJ says, hi Marcin, hope you're well, mate. Hello to Nick, tutor extraordinaire and all. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Very, very good of you. Also want to take a second and highlight this comment from Marcin, where he's back from Mystic Festival, where he saw Creator, Machine Head, Megadeth, and many other metal bands. Now, Megadeth are one of those bands who have had just a revolving door of tremendous guitar players. There are some bands like that. Like, we were playing some Thin Lizzy stuff in rehearsal today, and we took a second and appreciated like how great their alumni are, you know, in terms of the guitar players that have been through Thin Lizzy stores. And Megadeth are like the metal equivalent, if that makes sense. So yeah, man, sounds really cool. I'm glad you had a good time. Response Audio is in the house. Good to see you. Larry Warren is here, feeling the need for speed. Kate Strange is tuning in. Says, hello Nick and fellow guitarist. I've already started Nick's course on Lick Library. It's really good. Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. That's really good of you to say so. I think you guys are going to dig the course. Steve McD is also enjoying the course. This new course is super. Let us know how you get on over the next couple of weeks. Really keen to hear your results. Again, it's quite a deep course, but it's quite easy to get into as well. So really do encourage you to go check it out. If you're not a Lick Library member, maybe this is the incentive you need to go check out a membership. Cranky Tom is in the house, tuning in from Germany, where we seem to have skipped summer. Same, right? Straight to autumn, apparently. So Headrush Gig Board and PRS at readiness. Snap, PRS on the lap today. Felt like playing this one today. I haven't given this guitar too much love recently, but I do really, really enjoy this guitar, so I thought we'd crack this one out for the time being. And my friend Alan, who happens to be the other guitar player in Blitzkrieg, has just ordered the new Headrush Core, I think it is, the one that's the big thing but without the expression pedal. He's looking forward to receiving that. Should be a lot of fun. They're a great sounding bit of kit. Timothy Appling is in the house. Great to see you. Helmet Strap is tuning in. Looking forward to this hand sings. There's always been a problem at quicker tempos. Well, we're going to see if we can give you some advice on that today. Daryl Queen is in the house, says, hey Nick and everyone, finally getting to watch watch live again after a couple of weeks of work and life getting in the way. It's great to have you back, man. You're always in with the good insights. We love a bit of that. Deadman Doogie Van Dugerson is in the house. Kim is tuning in, playing his Ibanez ATZ 100 for this stream. Now that, I happen to know, is a beautiful guitar. Did a review of that for Guitar Interactive Magazine. You want to check out some reviews, go to the link down below. You know where to find us. It's a beautiful guitar. Really, really nice. Andy Timmons knows what he's doing, doesn't he? Block 18 is in the house. Mal Riley's in the house, wishing he'd skip summer in a very hot part of Phoenix, Arizona. Cowcat is tuning in. Sacred Godslayer is here. Chris Davis is here. Tony McAnally is here. Ergo Hog is tuning in. D40 is tuning in from round the corner. A fellow Geordie, no less. Suntanu Official is tuning in. Love as always. Great to have you. Who else do we have? Nick the Pig. Eddie Russell is here. Let's see who else we have. Eddie Russell loves the new course. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. That's really good of you. Mal Riley is here. Lovely to see you. Northeast of England is grim today too, says D40. Can confirm, man. It's pretty cold and pretty wet. Just not a fan. Not into that. Simon Redford is here. Simon, it's lovely to have you on board. Our friend, I'm going to butcher the name again, Vyacheslav, says, we believe PRS the best. We believe in the PRS, the best guitars in the world. Do love me some PRS. Do love me some PRS. They're killer. Who else do we have? Some more very quick hellos. Mustache Metal is here. Falco Richardson is here. Says, great intro jam. Very kind of you. Appreciate that. Denmut says, Nick, have you tested the PRS CE24 Saturn yet? I have. We've a review of that coming up in the next edition of Guitar Interactive Magazine, if I'm not mistaken. Should be out very soon. Sam Bell is doing the review, but I have used this on another course that is coming your way quite soon on Lick Library. It is killer. Love a bit of that. Some more very quick hellos. Artemis Clyde is in the house from Amsterdam. My friend Craig is here, says, welcome, Noggers. Points, if anybody knows where that's from. And last but not least, Psych Guitar is in the house. Lovely to see you. Paul Alexander, in at the last. Lovely to see you tuning in from Canada. Anyway. Hello, if I've missed you, I do apologise, but hey, drop us a comment if you've got any questions. We will get to as many of them as we can over the course of today's stream. Now, let's get into the meat of today's session, which is the sticky subject of hand sync and right hand speed. And we're going to split this up into two sections, because that right hand speed thing, that's not going to take very long, right? It's not going to take us a huge amount of time to get this sorted, but let's address it all the same. How do we get our right hand going quickly? Well, For most folks, this really isn't the problem, right? But for some people it is, so we're going to address some of it. Now, we're going to go back to our drum loop. We did some drums last time and it served us very well. We did a little bit of tempo practice. We're going to start at 120 BPM today, for all argument's sake. And we're going to begin by exploring some strategies for moving the pick from side to side on the string and do a little bit of troubleshooting. Now, we're going to assume that we're doing the majority of our picking work with alternate picking, right? Alternate picking. Down, up, etc. I do not have a dog in this fight when it comes to dog fighting is also very cruel, but I don't have a dog in this fight when it comes to economy versus alternate picking. I think they're both very viable strategies. I think they both sound good. I use both in my playing, right? Anyway, with that little disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about moving the pick on a single string. We're going to begin on our B string, for argument's sake, and we'll play a few notes in the B string to stop ourselves from going insane. The notes in question are going to be 5, 7, and 8 on our B string. 5, 7, 8. Now, we're not going to play each one like so. We're going to tremolo pick on each one. And by tremolo pick, I guess not really tremolo picking, but we're going to pick repeatedly on each one, just to give us some kind of musical device to play along with. If we were just to play on a B string, we'd drive ourselves nuts. Now, with this in mind, let's explore a few of the potential ways that we could move our pick on the string. There's a few strategies we can use to get the pick from one side of the string to another. We can use the most classic version, which is referred to as wrist deviation. Wrist deviation, in case you're wondering, is this movement, where we slide our wrist from side to side. Let me quickly go to the main cam, I'll show you what's going on there. Wrist deviation looks like this, right? Wrist goes this way, wrist goes this way. Now, I say that there is usually a slight offset in terms of the direction the wrist goes in. I've heard this referred to as the dart player mechanic. Again, this sort of deal. This is a Troy Grady thing. All credit to our man Troy, who pioneered all of the insights that we have in this stuff. We can use this, the side-to-side wrist movement. It might look something like this. We're going to try it together. It might go at 120 with our drums. Drums are a little quiet, so let's turn our drums up a little bit. There's Anders, Logic's heavy drummer, and we'll go. Sounds awfully like a rip-off of the James Bond theme, but that's okay. At slightly faster speeds, we might get something like this. A perfectly viable way to move from one side of the string to another. Another way we might do it is you might do it with a rotational movement, which might be like this. Here what I'm doing is, instead of moving my wrist strictly from side to side, I'm incorporating a little bit of forearm rotation into the mix. This kind of deal. It's the turning a doorknob or turning a key in a door kind of feel. I'm not going to get into which one you should do just yet, but here's one of them, right? Turning a knob, turning a key in a door. So we have wrist deviation, turn the key in the door. Other strategies we can use include elbow. Elbow being this. Again, perfectly viable strategy. At speed, it might sound like this. There's elbow. Here's wrist. Rotation. Oops. I was going to say something there and I tripped myself up. The last move we might use might be some kind of finger movement, which might be this. Yikes, that is tough. Struggling to do that at some kind of speed. What that might look like is something like this. Again, not my favorite way of doing that, but a viable strategy nonetheless. Now, I bring this up because what I want to know from you dear friend in the comments, as we try to do this together, is, oh, first of all, by the way, I've just spotted this here. Send me a friend Craig is very, very poorly with some stomach ulcers. That really sucks, man. I hope you're going to feel better very, very soon. Send some love Craig's way in the comments if you haven't done so already. That is my man Craig here, who is in agony after being sick. I can imagine. That sounds absolutely blimmin' dreadful. Awful. Not a fan. So fingers crossed, man. Hopefully you'll feel better soon. Recover well. Send love to Craig in the comments. Anyway, on to the test. What we're going to do with this is we have our four mechanics. We have wrist deviation, rotation, elbow, which is this. Notice they look quite similar. And finger movement. We're going to speed things up and we're going to see which movement that you default to as you go further, just to see what happens. We'll do a little bit of straw poll in the comments and see where folks get to. So let's begin at 120 BPM. I would imagine most people are going to be able to keep up at this kind of speed, but if you can't, don't sweat it. It's okay. We're going to start here. We're going to go. And as far as the movement that you choose, just select the one that feels the best. Roll with whichever one feels best. Let your hands do what they want to do. We're playing 5, 7, 8, 7. That's our one. Don't pay too much attention to what I'm doing. I want you just to see what happens with your own hand as we start to speed this up. Let's move it a little faster. Let's try going. We've got some rotational stuff already coming in from our friend Malcolm Mears. Rotation, perfectly viable mechanic. But let's see what happens when we start to get faster. Let's go. And if you get to a certain speed and something doesn't feel right, maybe you're doing fingers and that feels terrible, don't be afraid to try a different one and just see how it feels. Let me know how this is working for you. We're at 140 right now. Let's get up to 160. We're still going pretty slow for this, but let's see where we get to, right? We're going to go. Now at this pace, right, I can't talk and play at the same time. At this pace, we should start to see a technique reveal itself. I'm using some kind of wrist deviation movement here with a little bit of rotation, but it's kind of a blend and that's okay. But things are going to change as we get faster. Steve McDee saying elbow. All of these are okay. All of these are okay. We're going to slow it down. We're going to bring things down to 90 BPM and we're going to play twice the speed. We're going to go. Let's just see where we get to. Everyone feeling good? I also want to know if anybody changes. If anybody feels they play a certain way at some speeds, and then it changes when things get fast. Let's go a little faster again. We're going to get up to 110. Let's go here. So we're going to go. Should still be okay. Let's get faster again. Let's go 130. Let's go. And let's cross the magic threshold. We're going to get up to 152. Why not? This is really where things start to reveal themselves. Now, we don't need to go any faster than that today. That is a perfectly good measure of what happens when things start to go quick. The reason I bring this up is because having a knowledge of what's going on with your picking mechanics will help you inform your decision-making progress when we start to troubleshoot things, which we're about to do, because there are a few things that can get in the way when it comes to playing quicker, and we're going to get through all, or at least as many of them as we possibly can. Now, we've got a few great comments coming in already. So our friend Malcolm Mears is using rotation. Our friend Fares Edwards, great name. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if I'm not. Says wrist deviation, again, great choice. Steve McD is using elbow. Where are we? Elbow. Let's see. Who else do we have? We've got some great observations from Falco Richardson. We'll get to that in a second. I'm going to bring those up. Tony McAnally, easy for me to say, put my teeth back in, says rotation. Simon Redford says feels like the fastest paced moved tension up the forearm towards the elbow. Very interesting. Very interesting. We're going to get to that. Mostly wrist deviation with some rotation, says Eddie Russell. Deviation says helmet strap. Who else do we have? I like that we're all speaking this anatomic language here. This is really cool. So here's a good observation from Falco Richardson. Says elbow gives me shoulder tension a la Petrucci. Trying to play more rotational like Ingve, it's more relaxed, I find. Now this is the crux of this thing, is that different folks will succeed with different strategies. And realistically, there's not really one that we can say is the way to do things. Now, when I was coming up as a young guitar player, I was taught that there was one way and one way only to pick on a string, which is to use strict wrist deviation, and you should never use any elbow or any finger because bad, and nobody could tell me why. But then we see great players with very evolved picking techniques using every strategy under the sun. We have players who use some kind of finger thing. Michelangelo Pt.2 springs to mind for that. Say what you like about his music. Guy has a very efficient picking technique. We also see some finger movement in Ingve's playing. We see elbow movement in players like Zach Wilde. Who else? John Sykes. We see a lot of elbow. John McLaughlin, elbow. There's a lot of that going on too. It's really interesting, but paying attention to this thing in particular, where we sort of go, okay, this particular strategy doesn't work for me, I found another one that does work, that's really good, right? This is an important observation. So this is why it's personal, and this is why we went through this kind of like, I guess, this trial and error that we've just done. So, very good observation. We like a bit of that. We also have some comment on grip. We're going to get to that in just a second, and that's really, really good. We like that. What else do we have? A couple of other little observations. All wrist, says Marcin. Cracker Tom says rotation plus a little wrist. Half rotation, half wrist. Eddie Russell says, yeah, at the end, a bit of elbow came in, probably because I tensed up. Very interesting. Very interesting. Who else do we have? We got some other ones going in. Let's see who else we have. State Godslayer says, how one moves the pick somehow forces to play within a certain movement or another. Yes, no, you might be right there. Mustache Metal says, I use wrist for everything except tremolo picking. I switch to elbow. Elbow is a very, very fast thing. Michelangelo Pt.2, any fun stories about Nick? I've never met him, not properly. So anyway, let's get into some troubleshooting. So regardless of your particular approach to moving the pick from one side of the string to another, we've got, I'm laughing in the comments, we've got a few general points of performance we want to meet here. First of all, very quickly, we want to make sure that we have an even timing from our downstrokes to our upstrokes, unless we're looking for something that is overtly swung. Now, the way we address this, as far as our timing goes with our picking, is by kind of gauging the distance that the pick travels on each side of the string. I have a little trick, by the way, if anyone wants to be better at the Van Halen swing, right? The Van Halen swing. If you take your pick movement at the minute, the center of the range of motion is on this A string. If we just center the range of motion so that it's just this side of the A string, just this side of it, what we get is we move the same amount, we start to get a swing by dint of the fact that our pick has to move less distance from the downstroke than it does to the upstroke. So if you want to be better at this I'm the one swing, this thing that people struggle with, this. We just move the range of motion of the pick slightly this way. However, that can trip us up. Certainly with rotational styles, it trips me up, where maybe I'm playing... I end up swinging slightly with the pick. Because for whatever reason, I'm rotating more this way and less this way. Cool if you want to play Detroit Rock City, but it's not cool if you want to play clean. Clean Zakk Wylde style lines. So that's one thing. So making sure that we are centered in the range of motion and we have an even distance from one side of the pick's travel to the other side of the pick's travel. How far that is actually not as important as you might think. We have players who move the pick quite a lot and are able to pick quite fast. Similarly, we have players that move the pick just a teeny tiny amount and are also able to play quite fast. But one thing that is consistent among these players is that the string and the pick, here's a good one from D40. He says, that lick right there, I struggle massively with. Well, we'll get to that. We're going to address that. Rick Elliott's also asking about picks. We'll get to that one in a second. Soft picks have become more popular. Purple plectrums. I also thought purple picks were quite stiff ones, but we'll get to that. Anyway, I'll talk about picks. So a very good question. We'll address that in the Q&A section in just a moment. But the other thing we need to address is the ability to get the pick across the string and what has to happen for the pick to get across the string. So there's two ways that we can move a pick from this side of the string to this side of the string. We can either bash the string out the way, or we can keep the string roughly where it is and let the pick graze the top of the string. It is unquestionably faster to do the second, but it's also louder to do the former. So once again, we can try and keep our string stationary, or we can try and keep our pick very tightly gripped and move the string out the way when we pick it. Rick Graham talks about this and calls it string displacement. But here's the way I like to think about it. I like to think about either using just the very tip of the pick to allow it to graze over the very top of the string, and if you use the very tip of your pick and you just rub it side to side on the string like this is not an ASMR stream, I promise, but you will feel that sensation of the string staying put and the pick just flopping over the top of the string. I'm looking around to see if I've got any brightly coloured picks I can do this with. I don't, I'm afraid. I've got this one, but maybe if I move it over the bridge pickup, you might see it a little better. Even still, what we can see there is the pick is just flopping over the top of the string. Another way we could do this, though, is we could do the Eric Johnson approach of dipping the pick a little bit further into the string and just holding it a bit looser. Let's do this on our D string very quickly. So if we hold the pick a little looser, the pick can actually bounce around just a little bit within our hand. Which keeps the string fairly stationary because the pick moves rather than the string. Now, I prefer, personally, just to use a little less pick on the string, but having that looser grip can really help too. So there are a couple of troubleshooting ideas. If you find yourself getting bogged down in the string, try using a little less pick, or try holding the pick a little lighter. If you find yourself with an uneven time, check your range of motion. Make sure that you're moving the same distance either side of the string. So that's some troubleshooting things on pick movement. Let's get on to hand synchronization, which is a lot less about the physical technique and more about your ability to pay attention to it, which is where our concept of chunking comes in. Now, chunking, for those who don't know, in case you were wondering, is how we deal with large packets of information at fast speeds. Fast speeds. So, Here's a great one from Marcin, by the way. He says, I watched a lesson where I learned that at ultra fast speeds, we should barely displace the string, almost like scratching it instead of real picking. For sure, can totally agree. Totally agree on that. If we're playing crazy fast, the reason being, I think there's a couple of reasons. First of all, it means that we can keep a more relaxed picking approach because we're not having to deal with the impact of the pick on the string, let's say. We're not having to absorb that force and grip the pick tighter using all of these muscles in the forearm to hold the pick nice and tight. You know, all these kind of disgusting flexy things that are going on here that I'm... Look at that, gross stuff, and these guys up here, horrible stuff. We don't want to be engaging too much in that because it's going to slow us down, and we don't want that. But also, the other thing is, if you pick the string too hard, the string won't be where you left it when you come back to pick it. It will have moved because the string goes like this, bong, 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 bong. If we're trying to pick consistently in a very tight and very accurate motion, we're not going to be able to do that on a string that's moving too much. So totally agree, a very good point. Anyway, chunking. Let's get into chunking and how it works. Our easiest example of chunking would be to take a look at a sequence. And for this, we're going to take a look at a classic sequence that we might think of as the Yngwie 4s. Now, the Yngwie 4s go something like this. Let's take our drums, and we'll bring them back to a more moderate speed. We'll go to our two hands cap. We're going to go back to our B string. We're going to treat ourselves to an open, well, we're going to treat ourselves to an open string in a second, but we're going to treat ourselves to an ascending passage that we can use to practice this chunking idea. And our ascending passage will go like this. We'll play 5, 7, 8, and then slide up to 10. Now we can actually take this same passage and continue it up in this case, let's say the E minor scale, up our B string and get this. We'll do the vocabulary thing another time. For the time being, it's enough just to play this. That is our chunking pattern for the day. Now, the way we play this, if we're careful and we're quick about it, is not by playing all 4 individual notes, but rather by playing let's say by firing off one command to play all 4 notes. So we don't think about this. We think about this. Now, here's what I want you to think about with this one. Here's what I want you to think about with this. Friend Craig saying lots of harmonic overtones in your sound. Yeah, man, we love it. So, harmonics in the guitar, magic. So, here's what I want you to think about with this. I want you to think about the following. We're going to try speeding this up as we go. I want you to think about the first note and the last note. I want you to think about hitting the first note with a downstroke, the last note with an upstroke, let the others fall where they may. Let's begin by just playing the rhythm that we're going to play with our right hand. We're going to get this. Everyone got it? Let's try playing the first note here, the last note here, and we'll let the other two just be nothings. Everyone got that so far? Let's try going. Everyone got that so far? Let me know in the comments if this is working for you, because we're going to add another thing on the end in just a second, right? But that in its essence is the sensation that we're talking about when we're thinking about chunking. Now, this is below the speed where chunking becomes absolutely necessary, but it's fast enough to be a challenge for most folks because we've got that little position shift in there, that little challenging position shift. We're going to move the picking, or move the vocabulary around it a little bit just to make things a little more challenging, but we wanted to show you what it feels like to target mentally certain notes within your phrase. Now, this is a little different to the classic Paul Gilbert way of thinking about this, which is to accent certain notes. Now, we absolutely can accent certain notes within a phrase to synchronize our hands, right? To synchronize our hands. We'll get to that in a minute, but what's going on here is if we assume that our picking is in time and is hitting rhythmically the points that we want it to, and our left hand also happens to be in time, then we should be in sync. Not because we've made a huge effort to synchronize each individual note, but we're just making sure that each hand is playing in time and we have regular checkpoints, which we might think of as these accents or these little check-in ideas that we talked about. Think about this note, think about this note. These regular focal checkpoints where we focus on a particular note, we drop a pin in the map, so to speak, that just checks that we're in time and gives everything a chance to resync if it starts to drift ever so slightly, if that makes sense. Now, because we're doing the Ingve thing, let's throw another sequence in here just to complete it and make it a little bit more vocabulary-ish. The next one we're going to do is the following. We've had this. We'll follow it up with this, which is going to be the same two notes as before. 5, 7, sorry, 7, 8, my mistake. Then 10, slide up to 12. Same rhythm, it's going to be this. If we string that together with our 5, 7, 8, slide to 10 idea, we should get something that links together really quite consistently. Now, what we're focusing on here, or what I'm focusing on, is the timing of that first note with my first finger on each of these phrases. And because I'm finishing here, I'm putting a little bit of extra focus on that last note with the up pick. Everyone okay with this? Let me know in the comments. Now, the way you might have heard this described before, this thought process, is accenting certain notes. And this is, again, it's something that we'd hear a lot from well-meaning guitar teachers back in the day. We've got a lot of folks saying yes, we are pleased to hear that, that's good. Now, this same process, just to extrapolate this a little further, is what we get, before I get into the weeds with accenting, the same process is what we get when we start to speed this up. It's the same thing. It's focusing on individual accents. Same thing with other sequences. Now, this is all just one string stuff because we're not crossing strings just yet. That's another story for another day. It deserves its own whole stream. I am focusing on the same things here, which is the first note, the timing of the transition, those really sticky bits, and just assuming that the other notes will fall into sync because they'll probably fall into sync close enough. If I practice the lick, they'll probably fall into sync close enough, but I have those checkpoints every 4 notes or every 6 notes where I just mentally check in with the timing and go, hey, where's the timing? And if the timing is good, bop, 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 on those accent notes or on those check-in notes, then things should fall neatly back into sync. Even if there's a couple of samples of latency between this hand and this hand, it's fine because we sync them back up every time we do a little check-in. Now, we talked about this before with the Paul Gilbert thing, where we talk about the accent idea. So Paul will talk about the idea of playing accents on the beat, where he might play with same drum pattern. Let's maybe try some kind of descending pattern. Let's do this one, which is a favorite there. Behave. Now there, the synchronization is coming from the same thing. I'm thinking about the first note. The first note on each one, but what we don't want to do is enforce the first note to be louder. For a couple of reasons. First of all, it's disruptive to our technique. Secondly, it's disruptive to the musical flow of things. If we ever want to play this with a clean sound, for example, and we always accent the first note, we don't want that. We want smoothness. So what I encourage you to do is I encourage you to play the notes at the same volume, but to mentally imagine the notes that you're checking in on, those accent notes, as really loud. So when we're hitting this note, and this note, and this note, I'm playing them like this, but I'm hearing them like this. Do I have a compressor on here? I don't think I do. I think I've just got a bit of compression on the amp. Let's maybe go to the single coil sound. That's how I'm hearing the notes, but I'm playing them smoothly and evenly like that. For a few reasons, mainly because that's how I want to hear them. I want to hear them like that. I also don't want to tie the rhythmic value, the rhythmic accent, to the beginning of a particular string. So, you know, that's how we end up with what a lot of fusion players will derisively call the rock player's time field. It's yet another story for another day, right? But I totally get it, right? I totally get it. So we don't want to tie the accent physically in terms of our check-in note. We want to be able to feel that at any point in the meter, and we want to be able to place an accent in terms of dynamics at any point in the meter, but we also need to have these regular check-in notes. So it's more a case of you make them a strong mental focus and hear these notes very loudly in your mind, but you don't change the technique. The other reason we don't change the technique is it's physically disruptive. So if we hit an accent, it physically disrupts the flow of our picking. It makes things have a certain feel to them that we then have to compensate for. So if we hit a string really hard because we're accenting it, A, the string moves, so the string gets out of the way and then we have to find it. Also, it causes us to have to grip, because in order to make an accent, we have to displace the string. That's how accents work. We get an accent by physically moving the string. I'll do it in the D string so you can see it. To play an accent, we have to move the string. Very difficult to get accents without physically moving the string. That in turn requires a little more strength than just allowing the pick to flop over the string or just to graze it on the top end. We can do it, but we don't want to make it a necessary part of our hand sync, because ironically, it's going to disrupt your hand sync. What we want is we want a smooth, and even technique. With a roughly even picking volume, unless we deliberately reach for accents for a musical purpose. Friends, that's been a look at how we can improve your right hand speed and your hand synchronization. I'm sure you have questions. I got some answers for you, so if you got questions, drop them in the comments. I would love, love, love to hear from you. We're going to get through as many of them as we possibly can. Before we do, though, I want to remind you that we have a course on this topic over on licklibrary.com. It's a new course called The Ultimate Guitar Speed Builder. In case you missed our chat about this in the early part of this stream, if you just hopped on, let me remind you, this is a course that I've put together using a blended approach, let's say. This is a practice course. So this is a course not about just about the raw mechanics of playing quickly, and it's not a course about vocabulary, i.e. let's learn a load of licks that you play really, really fast. This is just about developing speed on the guitar. It's about practice and how you actually grow and cultivate the ability to move your fingers fast and in time with each other and reliably. And we do this using principles derived from sports science, because where better to look for inspiration on how to get faster than speed and power athletes. And it's all based on a few texts. One of them is the seminal text on period, on the seminal text on, I've totally blanked, I do apologize, polarized training. I know I said periodized training there. On polarized training by Joel Friel, which essentially says that it describes the way that speed and power athletes like velodrome cyclists and speed skaters and sprinters and jumpers will practice, which is a whole lot of easy and occasional bouts of very hard. Essentially, that's it, right? So it goes into huge detail. It shows you how you can track this stuff. We use numbers, we use measurement and metrics to track your progress. It's not just a, hey, let's play really, really quick. Or here's a bunch of licks you can play quick. It's available on licklibrary.com. Members will get it as part of their membership. If you're not already a member, what better reason to sign up? Also, I am led to believe there is a 33% Lick Library sale going on right now, but you're going to have to go to licklibrary.com and check that out. So there is a sale if my source is to be trusted, and I would hope so. So go to licklibrary.com, go check it out. Links are in the description. Let's get into the questions, and hopefully, along with the questions, a bunch of answers. Let's do it. So let's see who's in the house and who's got what. First of all, very, very quickly, a question from our friend Daryl Queen. Says, question, do you internally count out the subdivisions you hear, even when you're mentally just targeting only specific notes in the sequence in your head? That's what he's trying to say. Sorry, in your head. Yeah, I do-ish. I don't count them in the sense of, 1 eander, 2 eander, 3 eander, 4 eander, because you can only say those at a certain speed. I challenge you to say 1 eander, 2 eander, 3 eander, 4 eander at speeds beyond 150, 16th notes at 150, chunking speed, because we can't. It's a reason why if I got you to say at increasingly faster speeds, we couldn't do it, and we start to do things like or the famous widdly 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 widdly, which is actually a very good way of describing guitar players playing 16th note triplets. Widdly 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 widdly, with the w being the first note. Widdly 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 widdly, if that makes sense. So Nick Harrison says, great reference points for principles. Thanks, man, appreciate it. But yeah, going back to, very quickly, back to this question. So I guess it's more a case of I audiate the subdivision. So I hear it as a biddle or a biddle, if that makes sense. But I don't count out the individual beats as 1 eander, 2 eander, 3 eander, 4 eander, because you can't do that at speed. I don't think you can do it out loud. I also don't think I can do it in my head. Maybe some folks out there can. I can't. Here's one from Marcin. Very good question. It says, active pickups in live settings. Okay, interesting. I saw multiple bands playing EMGs sounding great, and on the other hand, passive pickups struggled to pop in the mixes. What's your take on that, Nick? Well, I'm a big fan of Fishman flutes, as you guys know. One of the reasons that I like the Fluence thing so much is because they carry really well in a mix. So if you are playing metal, let's say you've got a lot of distortion, a loud band, that active, I don't even want to call them active, because they are active, but they're not really active in the sense that EMGs are active. They're a different kind of thing, but still, they have a certain kind of clarity to them that you don't get from certain hot passive pickups. But I think this is the issue. I think the issue is hot passives. So with hot passives, we tend to, the hotter your passive pickup gets, because of the nature of winding lots of wire onto a spool, onto a bobbin, and using very powerful magnets, it tends to focus the pickup's frequency range into the mid-range. So, for example, Falco Richardson is going to prove my point here, I think. It's going to prove my point. Because I feel like the hotter passives that some people will lean towards for heavy stuff will tend to be a bit too mid-rangey and will lack the high-end extension that you need to really have clarity on a live stage. Because the high end is where the transient lives, if that makes sense. The transient being the of the pick on the string. And I think that's where actives go well, but I have had a lot of success with lower output passive pickups like these guys. So these are the Spirit 59 pickups that are in my Maybach Convey. I actually have a new set of Spirit 59s I'm going to show you. You may have seen them on my Instagram. If you haven't, tell me these are not the single most beautiful pair of pickups you've ever seen in your entire life. I'm going to go to this cam and show you. Right, these are the Spirit 59. Look at that. Spirit 59 Custom. They're going in the Maybach, right? And they're essentially the same pickups, but they've got a whole bunch of wires. For anybody who's looking at this, I really wish I could show you, but I've got the camera on manual focus, so you'll not be able to see there. But this is 6 conductor wiring. So these are PAFs, right? They are PAFs or PAF style pickups, however you want to call them. Very low output. This one is wound a little hotter, but it's also tapped. So we have a classic like PAF style winding on there, and then I can pull a pot and get a little bit more juice, and I can split them, which gives me essentially 4 voices out of 1 passive pickup. It's very cool. The thing that makes these work so well is a couple of things. First of all, they're unpotted. So they are a little prone to microphonics, but they also have all of that extra life and harmonics that you get from an unpotted pickup, and they're not super high output, which means they're not necessarily the most appropriate for metal. I like them. And incidentally, here we go. A friend Falco Richardson says Michael Amott from Arch Enemy uses a Duncan Jazz set. Sounds great live. Well, would you look at that? They've got, it's a low output, bright sounding PAF style pickup. I think they can really work and be really clear live. Telecasters work really great. Strats work really great live. They tend to be quite easy to hear, but yeah, hot sounding, mid-focused pickups like that, they can sound really killer, but they don't necessarily have the best cut and carry in a live domain, if that makes sense. So here's another question from our friend D40. Says, any tips on getting that Zach lick down? And keep things close to the fretboard using 3 notes per string, but 2 notes. I can't control the distance off the board with any real speed, referring to the left hand. Now, here's what I would do, right? Here's what I would do. He says, I kind of bar the lick like Doug Aldrich would do. Would you consider that cheating? Well, first of all, there's no such thing as cheating, right? If it sounds good, it is good. Although people would say that, especially in the Northeast, you hear this quite a lot, where people would describe certain guitar techniques as cheating. It's weird, man. Weird. Don't get it. But anyway, what I would suggest is, personally, you can bar, but what I would do is, if we assume we're playing the Zach lick in question, if anybody wants to pick this up together, let's assume we're playing on the, we'll do it in the clean sound for now. If we're doing that line, this line in particular is A minor pentatonic in this case. I guess it's actually D minor pentatonic. So what we're playing here is we're playing 7/5, 7/5 twice. On the G string, then 7/5 on the D string. Now what I'm going to encourage you to do here is I'm going to encourage you to, you can bar, but I would prefer it if you released the first finger when your third finger goes down. And by release, I don't mean you have to bring it all the way up here. I just mean let it come up just a little bit. The reason for this is it's going to improve the timing of your left hand. It's going to give you some sense of rhythm with the left hand, some sense of flow, i.e. this finger's on, this finger's on, this finger's on, this finger on, etc. That makes sense? So another one he's saying here, my ring finger straightens out at speed, like it won't curl at the end knuckle. I don't think you need to. I think you're okay with that. I think you can probably do it flat and get away with it. I wouldn't stress too much about that, although I would encourage you to have a little bit of curl in there and maybe practice that and build it up over time, but you want to play this fast now. So that's going to help. But the other thing that's going to help is, we talked about this quite a lot, and this is a little bit of a hint at next week's stream, is to assume a picking posture that brings the upstroke away from the guitar's body. Now I'm exaggerating there for visual effect, but that's the way this lick works. It works by the downstroke not clearing the strings and the upstroke clearing the strings. We'll get into that in detail next week. But to recap, lift your first finger even ever so slightly for a timing reference. Angle the pick, or the picking angle. So that goes, he says he starts on an up pick. Well, in that case, do the opposite. Because it's definitely his fretting hand. I think in that case, I'm going to suggest it is that releasing the first finger thing. I think that's probably where the difficulty is going to lie. So we've got some more questions coming in. We're going to get through a few of those as we go. Rick Elliott with a really great observation, and had a question earlier on. We're going to get to that on pick types. But Rick just says that Eric Johnson also mentions he uses the side of the pick. For sure, using the side of the pick can help with allowing the pick to flop over the string, because we don't have as much surface area to get across the string like this. So very quickly, if I play on my low string, I do this slicing movement like this. It's a very exaggerated version of what's going on here, as opposed to this flat movement. Having to move the pick across the string is much easier here than it is here, because there's just much more pick on the string. There's more surface area to get from one side to the other. Turn it on its side, less surface area. I think it's probably going to wind up being the same. I think there probably will be something, but there's less surface area on the string at any given time, if that makes sense. So it makes it a little less sticky. It also changes the tone slightly. Versus that becomes extremely pronounced with distortion. Hopefully the amp won't scream. Let's see. That's the side of the pick. Here's the flat of the pick. Now that can be a fun thing, to play with the flat of the pick. And really get that pronounced blup as it goes over the string. But playing with the side of the pick, that equally has a very cool tone all of its own, which is a bit more, I guess, a bit more balanced, a bit more graceful. But the question that Rick had that I want to address is any insights onto style of pick? Soft picks have become more popular. Well, a very good question, my man. So I go between these all the friggin' time, right? All of the time. So the current picks that I'm using are these guys. These are Ultex Jazz 3s. The reason I like these is manifold. First of all, I feel like with a Jazz 3 style pick, I have enough options for how much pick I can get onto the string without having so much that I can trip myself up. So if I hold the pick at the back end, I feel like I can get a lot of, like here, at the back end being like this, I feel like I can get a lot of pick on the string if I need to, but it's also quite easy to choke the pick up and have a little bit of finger touch the string for that really kind of honky harmonic-y thing if that makes sense. That's quite easy to do. Also, the point of the pick makes it quite easy to get the pick from one side of the string to another. But I do like to experiment with different materials, and I'm going to look into my little pick stash over here and see if we have any different materials we can take a look at. I'm certain that we will, but I'll at least have a few different materials of Jazz 3. So, for example, the purple Tortex Jazz 3, the Ultex Jazz 3. This one chirps, this one doesn't. What do I mean by chirp? Well, the chirp would be this. Let me grab a really chirpy pick, which is this Martin plectrum. This is super chirpy. Hear that? Ching, 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 ching. That's fun for tracking. This is the Tortex Jazz 3. More of a blop than a chirp. This one, more of a pronounced chirp. Windspear Jazz 3. Slightly more hollowed out tones, cool tone. Dario Casein pick. Again. Big chirp on that one. Not the easiest to wield. But very cool sounding. Jazz 3. The thing I like about the Tortex thing is the Tortex Jazz 3 as well with this, is another thing it does, is it blends a little better with the tone of my fingers. So I don't feel quite as pronounced a change from legato lines that... I don't feel quite as big of a difference between the pick and the fingers with that one as I do with something like this, which is like the Windspear one. That's got a really clean attack. But the difference between this this. More pronounced with the Windspear. That's a little bit more, I guess it brings the two sounds closer together. This pushes them further apart. This pushes them even further apart. So with pick, it's a tone thing as much as it is a convenience thing. In terms of thickness, there is an argument that if your strings are thicker, you should probably use a thinner pick. I'll say it again. If your strings are thicker, you should probably use a thinner pick because you're going to have maybe more of an issue displacing the string if you have a thicker string, which is why thin picks work really well on acoustic. Let's say, always got this little nylon guy in my, what's that, a 0.6? Yeah, 0.6 mil, very thin. I'll always have that in my back pocket for strumming acoustics, playing bass. It works really well. It also tends to brighten things in quite a pleasing way. So a thicker pick tends to sound a bit thicker, whereas a thinner pick tends to sound a little brighter and have a little less low end presence. Thick strings tend to sound quite dull with a thick pick, whereas with a thin pick, they can sound really nice. By contrast, a thicker pick can work really well with a light string. It can bring a bit of mass to a light string. It's a trade-off, but I think going with one that you like the tone of is probably the way to go. I guess a final thought on this is it is always fun to have lots of picks with the same dimensions that feel the same but sound different. So maybe a Jazz 3 that is like 0.7 mil. So it's easy to do the funk clackety-clackety strum thing with, but also having different materials to play with. These ones are quite nice all-rounders. I quite like the prime tone ones as well. So yeah, when you say thoughts on picks, man, I got lots of thoughts on picks. We'll do a whole stream on picks one day. That would be really dull. I'm sure, really dull. Eddie Russell with a great observation, by the way, saying the string moves a lot less near the bridge if you don't mind the treble. That's a very good point, actually, very good point. So we can displace the string less if we pick closer to the bridge. So if we want... a more bouncy feel. At the expense of some additional treble, we can play about there. It actually sounds pretty cool in the neck pickup too. By contrast, we play up here by the neck. We get a much rounder tone, but I'm having to do this because I've got nowhere to put my hand, but also having to play a lot lighter because the string wants to move, whereas here it doesn't want to move, it wants to stay put. And here, it really wants to stay put. So I guess for the very fastest tremolo picking, back here with the grazing touch is maybe the way to go. Cool observation though, we like that a lot. Last question we'll take today from our friend Ergo Hog. Says, any thoughts on pick inconsistency? Some days my playing may be a little off and I have to use a heavier pick to achieve what I did in the last 4 days before with, say, a 1mm pick. Now, performance inconsistency, I guess, is probably more what we're dealing with here. So what I'll say with this is that, for want of a better word, your performance on the guitar, i.e. your ability to execute techniques at close to your limit on the guitar, are subject to the same performance variables that any other athlete is susceptible to, which is that we can expect, unless you are peaked, let's say, that's a different conversation, but on a general day-to-day basis, you can expect anywhere from a 5% swing up or down in terms of peak performance through to maybe a 10% swing as working against you, such as life stress, sleep, sore hands, have you been working in the garden, have you been in rehearsal all day like I have. Those sort of things can impact your performance. On a day-to-day inconsistent basis, if it's about that 5-10% swing, I don't sweat it. Usually, I don't really worry about it. If it's something where it's been down for a period of weeks or even months, that's more concerning. But it's not concerning in the sense of, oh no, your hands are going to come off. It's more concerning in the sense of, we should probably do something to fix that. And the way we would address that is with some consistent practice, if that makes sense. But that's a different story from today. But truthfully, I generally don't sweat it. I think accounting for a variation in your performance every few days is kind of normal, and it happens. It's just one of those things. And you go, okay, today's not the day. Let's either if you're practicing, let's reframe our practice so that we make our expectations a little lower. If you're performing, you maybe chill out what you're playing and try and play within yourself a little bit more if you can, and just deal with those bad days. They happen. I don't think it's anything to be concerned about, put it that way, and I probably wouldn't do anything about it if it's just the occasional down performance. But if it's more consistent, something to address. But a very interesting comment, and definitely one worth picking up on. Guys, I'm gonna have to call it there. I would love to sit and talk about this all day, but we've got 2 more streams to do this in. So a little highlight, that's not the word, a little, what's the word? Insight, maybe a look under the curtain as to what we're doing next week and the week after. Next week, we're back with more of the same, but we're going to be dealing with the single most challenging aspect of playing fast, which is crossing strings. How do we get from one string to another? That's the difficult bit, right? And we're going to deal with that next week. Once we've done that, we're going to have a whole stream, our 4th stream in a row, dedicated to vocabulary. What do you play with your newfound speed? That's going to be a lot of fun too. So we're here every Monday. If you haven't done so already, make sure you give us a thumbs up. You subscribe to whatever platform you happen to be watching on so we can let you know when we're about to go live. We don't want to miss you. We'd love to have you on board. If you have a guitar player in your life you think would benefit from watching these streams, be sure to share them with them, and it helps us out immeasurably. It's been a pleasure. My name's Nick Jennison. Don't forget, go check out our new course, The Ultimate Guitar Speed Builder, available on licklibrary.com right now. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun putting it together. I think you're going to get some cool results out of it. I'm going to jam some more. We're going to see what we've got left in the tank. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate you being here. let's play some more on that cool intro jam, which was our E minor modern prog backing. It's a lot of fun. It's available on licklibrary.com. You can get all of these backing tracks on Lick Library as well, so go check those out too. Thank you very much for having me. My name's Nick Jennison, and we'll see you guys next Monday. I'm gonna try that one again. Hi, my name's Nick Jennison, and it's my pleasure to announce that GI Plus, the exclusive lesson platform from Guitar Interactive Magazine, is moving to licklibrary.com. GI Plus features a whole host of the best players and educators in the world, bringing you exclusive lessons on everything from metal to blues to fusion and everything in between. Want to level up your shred chops? Check out How to Play Fast by Andy James. Or how about Sweep Picking with Rick Graham? Or maybe country's more your bag? Well, how about a full-length country guitar course from Andy Wood? Interested in learning how to play over changes? Well, members get access to hours of exclusive lessons from fusion maestro Tom Quayle. Or maybe you want your playing to sound more soulful? Well, who better than Chris Buck to show you how it's done? Members also get access to every lesson ever published in Guitar Interactive Magazine, including Michael Caswell's legendary Pro Concepts column. Or maybe you want to learn the secrets of the masters. Well, members get access to over 70 full-length tech sessions where our tutors painstakingly decode the styles of players like David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, John Petrucci, Larry Carlton, Slash, Tosin Abasi, Paul Gilbert, and many more. And you get all of this in addition to all of the amazing content on licklibrary.com, which includes note-for-note tuition of over 60 classic albums, weekly lesson uploads, a backing track library, and one-to-one player support. There has never been a better time to sign up than right now.